So I just remembered, I don't think I introduced myself. My name is Melissa Milano. I'm one of the organizers of the Socialist Alternative here in Portland. Earlier today, Hannah Sell, the Deputy General Secretary of the Socialist Party in the UK, uploaded a short video to Facebook in which she commented on the recent election of Jeremy Corbyn, the head of the Labour Party in Britain. Mr. Corbyn was a 200-to-1 outsider when the 3-month contest began. But he was swept to victory on a wave of enthusiasm for his anti-austerity message and his promise to scrap Britain's nuclear weapons and renationalize the railways and major utilities. In addressing Mr. Corbyn's victory, Hannah Sell remarked, "Socialism is making a comeback." Indeed, socialism is making a comeback. But whatever victories we win, we won't make a real difference unless we understand the true reality of the task in front of us. As capitalism stumbles from crisis to crisis, from war to recession to war, as Wall Street continues to reap enormous profits off the backs of working people, gambling away pensions in the stock market, and buying off politicians left and right, as the 24-hour news cycle tells us what to buy and how to look and who to hate, as the needs of our environment continue to be ignored in favor of profit. It is no wonder why working people are beginning to stand up and demand common sense solutions. And of course, one of those common sense solutions is a $15 minimum wage.
All right. Yeah.
15 was running Seattle, and since that time it has spread across the country, reigniting the labor movement around the common goal of living wage. Our first speaker tonight is Jamie Partridge, who is one of the lead organizers from 15 Now PDX. Please give him a warm welcome.
My chief petition on the ballot initiative to put a $15 minimum wage on the minority ballot in November 2016. Also social, remember the International Socialist Organization. Is that anything that I have? Not tonight. Okay. So what do we want? 15! When do we want it? Now! There. So the fight for 15 began just 3 years ago, with the fast food workers striking in New York City for 15 in the union. Back then, what's that? Better. Closer, okay. 15, what a dream. But this movement has spread from city to city across the country to the point where last April 15, 250 cities, low-wage workers were on strike. 60,000 low-wage workers were on strike. Not just fast food workers, janitors, security guards, airport workers, home care workers. And we've been waiting. You know, the historic victory in Seattle with the campaign of Kshama Sawant for city council and backed by the Socialist Alternative when we $15 minimum wage in Seattle. Amazing. And then San Francisco for 15, and Los Angeles for 15, and the University of California workers, tens of thousands of workers are now $15 minimum wage. In New York City, just last week, New York State, just last week, got $15 minimum wage for fast food workers. Home care workers in Massachusetts. Tens of thousands of home care workers in Massachusetts. Okay. Now, minimum wage is $15. And here in Oregon, we launched the 15 Now here in Portland a little over a year ago as part of Nick Calo's campaign for city council. Lots of us, Kshama Sawant's campaign. And 15 Now launched with Nick's campaign. He was putting forward the fight for 15. We rallied, we had marches, we had occupations, in hearings, and then we started doing it. Multiple county workers, full-time workers, all now have a minimum of $15. City of Portland, full-time workers and contract workers, janitors, security guards, fire attendants, minimum of $15. home forward, park rangers, some of the parks and recreation workers, and then just this summer, just a couple of weeks ago, 24,000 home care workers in the state of Oregon. Have won a path to 15. And now the politicians are jumping on board. Charlie Hales, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Labor Secretary Thomas Perez, even Mario Cuomo, the governor of New York, all say that $15 minimum wage is a number. The National Democratic Party platform now calls for 15. Can Hillary be far behind? The fight for 15 has gotten mentioned. We're waiting every day. 15 is the magic number. Where did it come from? I mean, obviously, it's what people need to get out, it's what workers need to get out of college. You know, the studies all show it. But it's a symbol. It's a symbol of a working class fight back. And that is something that's not going to take anymore. It's 99%, it's 1%. It's one of the most exciting battles of our class in decades. It's like a fight for the 8-hour day. I mean, where did that come from? But the fight for 8 was at the center of America's general strike in 1886, at the center of the Russian Revolution in 1917. Now it's the fight for 8. Now it's the fight for 15. 15 is the magic number. It's capturing the imagination of low-wage workers everywhere. In Portland, the Jobs and Justice Coalition has launched a Portland campaign for 15 with a number of different unions bound to bring 30,000 low-wage workers up to 15 within the next 2 years as part of new organizing and contract campaigns. And 15 now is leading the fight to make Oregon the first state to win 15 for all workers. Chapters active across the state, and we've already made 15 the only number that anyone's talking about on the ground in the media at the state legislature. And by the way, we did go to the state legislature this year, which is dominated by the Democrats. They already have the majority in the Senate and the House and the governorship, and they campaigned to raise the minimum wage, and we didn't get anything from the state legislature. So we're taking it to the people. We're taking it to the ballot. Today, we started gathering signatures to put the $15 minimum wage on the November 2016 ballot. And in 2 weeks, on the 26th of September, we're going to kick off a statewide signature gathering in Portland, Salem, Eugene, Medford, Newport, Dallas, LaGrant, Vance, Hillsborough, Tigard, Forest Grove, North Plains, Sherwood, everywhere. We're going to kick off our ballot signature gathering, and we've got commitments from volunteers to collect tens of thousands of signatures. We need you, every one of you, to help us join gathering signatures. We have 9 months to collect 88,000 signatures. That's 125,000 to get 88,000 ballot signatures by July 1st. We're going all volunteer, so we need people to pledge to collect 1,000 signatures or go out 2 hours a week. I pledge to go out 2 hours a day. I can get it because I'm retired. And you can help other ways, come around, make phone calls, do data entry, but visit our table right there in the back. And sign up, pick up petitions. You pick up petitions tonight. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be fun. We're in it to win it. What are we going to do? Fight for 15. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Fight for 15.
What are we going to do?
Fight for 15.
All right. Thank you very much.
One of the most important parts about what we're trying to do here and what the example that Kshama's campaign has set for the rest of the country is the importance of running independent grassroots candidates. Here to talk to us about just that is Nick Taylor. Nick ran for city council here in Portland on an independent ticket on a platform of a $15 minimum wage.
Good evening. Sorry I was late. I got caught on the Hawthorne Bridge, and then it took about 15 minutes to find a parking space, and that's why you don't drive. That's what it means. came here, I'm really excited to speak tonight. For one reason, I don't have a lot of heroes in politics. It's just not a thing that I've had in a long time. I used to work for the Democrats, and when I was working there, it's kind of one big letdown after another. You meet politicians who are great in public, and you get to know them a little bit in private, and you were let down. Lots of promises were made, and eventually things didn't come to fruition. It was, just very dispiriting. And Kshama Sawant is actually a person that I hold in such high regard that I would say it's a heroic individual for our times. It's hard to think back to what things were like even a year ago, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? But the pace of change is moving so quickly now. Sometimes it's hard to forget before Kshama won election in Seattle, people weren't seriously talking about things like $15 minimum wage. They weren't talking about things like rent control. They weren't talking about public housing. The conversation was very narrow. It was the San Washington consensus that we've ever seen. And now we've got this explosion of ideas that are going on in the political spectrum and around the Western world, especially. And we, owe a lot of this to Kshama. I remember when I heard about what was going on in Seattle for the first time. It was just kind of, something. There's an independent candidate up in Seattle. Something's happening. It sounds really interesting. Then there was some election night drama. This person pulled out the victor. I didn't know a ton about it at the time. The first thing that I really saw Kshama do was, after she was elected, she went to the Boeing machine workers whose companies continually threatening Washington to leave if they're not getting their tax breaks or whatever. And she went and basically, after she got elected, told the union workers that if they didn't get what they wanted from Boeing, that they should take over their factory and start producing mass transit machinery on site. And I was like, whoa. I guess so. And, it seemed audacious at the time, and, it was audacious at the time. She keeps being more and more audacious, and she keeps pushing our imagination forward. So, it's a person providing this for a lot of reasons. We need people like Kshama, not only in Seattle, we need people like Kshama everywhere right now, advancing what people need in the political spectrum so that we can keep driving the conversation, getting the material needs that we need to improve our lives. In Portland right now, well, first of all, let's start with how many people here are renters? How many people would agree that we're in a bit of a housing crisis right now? How many people would agree with the statement that they're scared shitless about their housing future? Right, me too. It's a huge problem. And every couple of days there's some new statistic coming out about Portland being, the hardest place to rent or renting classes. We all know it doesn't even make sense to really talk about statistics because we feel it every day. We're being evicted from our homes. If we're not currently being evicted from our homes, we know it's something that's possible in the future. And we see in the political spectrum basically nothing happening to help us. Some values about affordable housing are about the best that we do in the political spectrum. So we need to start organizing at the grassroots level around housing, especially. And up in Seattle, Kshama and Socialist Alternative and a lot of progressive and left coalitions are showing us what we can do if you start to make audacious claims. People are starting to push strongly for rent control. Nobody even talked about rent control until they started talking about it in Seattle, right, in our region of the world. So that's something that's potentially, something we need to advocate for locally. Nobody was talking about housing bonding. There were some groups up in Seattle saying they should be bonding the city for about $1 billion to build publicly available affordable housing we get access to. That's something we can do in Portland. So there's stuff like that that's in the political sphere that we can do right away. What we also need to do is organize at the grassroots level so we can actually create the support to carry these campaigns into the success. So there are 3 groups that I want to highlight who are starting to get really active around housing issues. One of them is the Portland Tenants Union, Portland Tenants United, and Margo, there's 3 people who are really interested in actually starting a tenants union so that people can start to, first of all, have grassroots power in order to make some demands. Right now, we're all scared. There's lots of news articles all the time about how terrible the housing situation is, but there's not much organization so that we can do something about it. If we create a because policies 2 years down the road really aren't going to help us right now. Everybody here probably knows some friends at least have been kicked out of the city in the last year or two, not because they wanted to leave the city, because they're being forced out. And another year or two without getting some strong relief is going to leave the same for everybody. So what we need to do is organize together now so that we can actually stop that in the process. On Tuesday next week, there's a group called the Community Alliance of Tenants, which does a lot of tenant advocacy in the city, is declaring a housing state of emergency in Portland. They're going to have a press conference at Peninsula Park at 6 p.m. I think this is something that whoever can go should show up to. And we should be talking about housing crisis if we get to organize from that level. My read on the political sphere is that most incumbents and sort of people running at the mainstream level of politics are very scared this is going to turn into a huge political issue. And there's a ton of room for us to advocate now for very, very strong relief when we can get it. So that's kind of the next thing I want to talk about is that we need candidates in Portland to run for office. I would really like to do it again. I'm probably not going to do it, and it's not because it's not a great experience. I don't want to do it. It's just I had some personal tragedy this year with my family. My father passing away, causing a lot of stress. It's really hard to take that step on. But there is a huge opportunity this year to run a slate of candidates at the city level. We have a really weird city system. There's only 5 positions, right? You know that? For a city that's several 100,000 people, it's not growing like crazy. It may change. There's going to be potentially a measure of about to go up, but 3 of those places are up for election this year. 3 incumbents have to defend. If you elect 3 leftists, progressives who are on a housing ticket, guess what? You got 4 years of the majority in order to control the budget. You got 4 years to do housing reforms. You got 4 years to do a whole bunch of stuff for real people in the city. And we haven't really put a slate together yet, but there's still enough time that we can find people from our community who are well known, who are intelligent, and who can run a slate. So I would like to advocate that people start to think strongly about that. If you're somebody who thinks that you might want to advocate such housing issues, minimum wage, police reform, things like that. Start thinking about that strongly. We need you really bad. So, in conclusion, the world is in crisis on a variety of levels. Climate change is getting really hard. We've got a housing crisis, we've got wage crisis, and all the rest. In a lot of ways, it's harmful. We're experiencing it. It's stressful. There's a lot of trauma associated with it. So that's one side of it. On the other hand, people are looking for new solutions that they haven't been looking for in decades in this country, and there's a humongous opportunity for us to jump in there and start to provide those solutions, to be audacious and to actually be in Britain. What happened in Britain is really interesting. There we go, right? Socialists that go to the Labour Party, Britain's moving to the left like crazy. Bernie Sanders, arguably, he's left for our system, right? He's all the rage in our system. Like, people are looking for new solutions. They're kind of old solutions. People have been talking about, human needs of appropriate grief for a long time. But it's up to us to revitalize this energy and actually start to get back in that spirit and we can win. So, the time is right. It's time to get organized. And Kshama Sawant has shown us how to do it. Let's take what she's shown us how to do. Let's replicate it and let's push forward and actually win in Portland so we can provide people with it.
My next speaker is Teresa Baker. It is no doubt that the Black Lives Matter movement has become a defining movement for a new generation of activists. It has mobilized people from all over the country. It has given rise to activists in ways that we never expected. Here in Portland, Teresa has
the leaders, all of the appointed leadership, they're all representing the Democratic Party. So I thought, well, in order to support my community, I have to run with this Democratic Party so that they can see the value in leadership coming from the community and being part of the solution to our issues. But our Democratic leadership did not want anything to do with our community when it came to us using our voices to change our circumstance. They did not want to hear it. Because whatever they're doing as our appointed leaders, or whoever we decide to elect, based on the amount of money they have to run the election, they're filtered, they're vetted, they're soft, they're friendly, they're digestible. The truth isn't. What we're learning last year is that it doesn't matter. We matter, period. And you know, whatever their truth is, they didn't have that. But we know that we have power. We know that our power comes because we have an intersectionality within the Black Lives Movement that pointed the interest of the socialist movement. And they said, oh wow, Leninism, Marxism, all of this shit that we know from all these degrees and centuries of revolutionary fighting, that's what's happening on the front line right now. And we know about that. Us on the front line, we didn't know shit about Leninism, Marxism, socialism, none of that. All we know about was racism and the value of economics, and that we didn't have none. But when they started introducing what they're fighting for and what their knowledge was, that empowered us as well. Most of the movement that I know about across this country is supported by the Socialist Party. That's called partnering. So, if we want to win an election, if we want to represent our Pacific Northwest, if we want the leaders to come from the communities, and guess what? You got to stop being afraid of challenging systems that exist. We can't change the parties that we feel more comfortable with. We have to challenge ourselves to uplift the people that are not making people comfortable. The truth comes out, shit starts happening. People start changing things. They don't sit around and analyze shit. They don't research stuff. They don't exploit communities. They don't kill children to find out why they died later. They don't tell you that they're not going to stop the violence because it's not going to stop right now. And so you just have to deal with it. They say, oh, let's stop that shit now. Let's shut shit down. Let's shut shit down. So in this case, regardless of what we got going on, we're going to elect our own leaders in the Pacific Northwest. And I just want to say that this room should be packed. It should be packed. It should be packed. We run our own media. Why is there any media here? Outside of the people that are listening to us. Because they're trying to control our voices. They think that if they shut us out, then we can't shut shit down. Guess what? We control our own media. All of y'all, take this challenge right now. Pull out your phones, tag where you're at, say go right now, donate right here, put the link on the website. Do whatever you have to do. Challenge the opportunity to take people where you want them to go. Tag everybody you know. I know on Facebook right now, if you take a picture of Shauna, that you can tag at least 90 people. And you can tag those people and you can add the link to her donation site right now and tell them to put money in it. $10, 15 now. We want 15 now. 15 now! 15 now! For putting that bill together. Thank you for using your intellect to create the language that changed legislation. But guess what? Since you did that for us, what are we going to do for her? We're going to get her elected so she can do more. And we're going to change it across this country. That's our challenge. We control the media. If they don't show up, we show out. Show out. Do not let this be an empty room. Make sure that everybody in the state board knows that she was here today and challenge at least the 28,000 that showed up for Biden to donate $10 right now to her. 28,000 times 10, what's that? Put it in her election.
Our final speaker of the evening is Kshama Sawant. Since Kshama has served on Seattle City Council, she has led the opposition to the corporate agenda of the Pacific Northwest. She was arrested March working with CCAP workers who recently won $15 minimum wage and homeowners resisting foreclosure. She risks arrest supporting environmentalists, blocking coal trains, as well as the Shell oil rig. Unlike the vast majority of elected officials, Kshama Sawant's re-election campaign does not accept corporate cash. And while the rest of the city council in Seattle pays themselves $120,000 a year, Kshama accepts only the average worker's wage and donates 2/3 of her salary to social justice movements. She's just one vote, and she can't get things done. Yet this completely ignores her accomplishments with unanimous city council votes, including not only the historic $15 minimum wage, but also the resolution against the TPP free trade agreement, the replacement of Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day, and the new city funding for city workers' wages, the homeless, and a women's shelter. Additionally, she has been a true fighter for the LGBTQ community. Last winter, in response to a spike in anti-LGBTQ violence in Capitol Hill, Kshama held a public meeting to discuss community-based solutions, giving a platform to the most vulnerable members of the Capitol Hill community, namely houseless, transgender, and gender non-conforming people. In this past week, Kshama has stood in support of striking public school teachers in Seattle. Just recently, she organized a community forum at City Hall alongside the Coalition for Schools Seattle deserves. Taking all this into consideration, it's apparent that in her short time in office, Kshama has accomplished more than most council members do in their entire careers. Now, so what does all this mean to Portland? How does it translate to our lives here? Although there are certainly differences between Portland and Seattle, in many ways, the issues that workers are fighting for in Seattle are no different than the issues we're fighting for here in Portland. Just this week, the Portland Mercury published a feature article entitled "A Summer of Evictions. Portland Renters Are in a State of Emergency." The article included a quote from a recent news release by the local housing group Community Alliance of Tenants. It read, quote, "Through no fault of their own, huge numbers of renters are facing unsustainable rent increases or are simply being evicted. More and more of us are losing our housing security. Renters are experiencing mental and physical health impacts, disruption of children's stability and education, loss of access to transportation, training, and jobs, and a lost sense of community and belonging." This is the very same thing that Kshama is fighting for when she calls for rent control in Seattle. Like Portland, Seattle is experiencing a housing crisis. And like Portland, large numbers of working people, the people who literally make the city run, are being displaced in record numbers. And like Oregon, Washington has made rent control illegal. Now, these victories that we speak of do not happen in a vacuum. A victory for rent control and tenant protections in Seattle will energize working people here in Portland, no different than it did in the fight for 15. If our re-election campaign wins, we will prove that it is completely possible to elect candidates who reject corporate cash and run independent of the two major corporate parties, who will also have further pressure for politicians, labor leaders, civil rights organizations, and environmental leaders to fight harder for working class communities. This year, no other campaign more dramatically represents the struggle between the richest 1% and the 99% than Kshama Sawant's campaign. There is no doubt that Kshama's tenure on City Council has provided hope to ordinary voters and press groups and inspired movements across the country, including here in Portland. When speaking to the problem of affordable housing and gentrification, Kshama has said, "People understand that the market is not working for them. The market is making them homeless. The starting steps are for the labor movement to build, to run its own candidates, like Socialist Alternative ran its candidate on an unambiguously pro-working class platform as a defiant
10 socialist alternative and 15 non-Oakland who have put all the organizing into today's event. I also want to thank all my speakers, all the speakers who came before me, for giving us an inspiring account of what's going to happen in Portland. And I really agree with Teresa. This place should be full, it should be packed, it should be spilling with people. But it's also a lesson to us because it represents the empty seats here, represent all the organizing that we collectively need to do. Because as Melissa was saying, vast amounts of vendors in Portland are very clear. The market is not working with them, and that every day that goes by, they're on the brink of financial collapse. They don't need you to explain that conditions are bad. What they need is from us a message of how to organize. How can we turn housing injustice that is experienced in a very individualized form? How can we turn that into an organized fight back against the system? And what a time we're living in. For many of you, I'm sure you remember where all this started. Movements don't happen in a vacuum from one another. They feed off each other. And this process happens globally. These are global interconnections. And I would say our period of movement, which is just now beginning, really started from the Arab Spring, with the young people in Egypt stepping out to carry out a successful revolution, which of course, there's no question, has a long way to go. But that really signaled the coming of a different age. After decades of being beaten down globally, the workers' movement, the movements of people of color, the movements of people who are colonized are starting to rise up again. In the United States, we saw this moment opening up through the Occupy movement. And for those people who said that Occupy didn't give us anything, I don't know, we know what we could have done better in Occupy, and I speak as an occupier myself. It is no question that Occupy opened up the space for real conversation. And we found out that tens of thousands, if not millions of young people who were all privately enraged at the income and wealth inequality, enraged and outraged at the way the very banks that caused the global economy to come to a brink of an abyss, were the very ones rewarded in the pre-recession era. And the vast majority of us were left with an epidemic of foreclosures and evictions, an economy that is booming for them but leaves us with a proliferation of low-wage jobs. A housing market that is making more and more of us homeless every day. And in all this cauldron, we are seeing struggles starting to emerge. This is very important, my sisters and brothers. We absolutely cannot afford to miss this moment. And the Black Lives Matter movement is a clear indication that young people are urgently wanting to move into struggle. And we've seen those developments in the environment movement as well. And congratulations to Oakland environmentalists for blocking the Shell ice bridge. And as I mentioned, Seattle is now seeing a historic strike by the teachers, by the educators. And we we're seeing Bernie Sanders' message of the need for a political revolution against the billionaire class really gathered an echo among tens of millions of people around the nation. In Portland, he spoke to 28,000 people. In Seattle, he spoke to 15,000 people. It's clear that a message of an alternative to the corrupt big business parties, an alternative to the completely defunct system of capitalism is being sought everywhere we see. And Melissa and Nick mentioned the phenomenal victory of Jeremy Corbyn as a leader of the Labour Party. And let's look at the numbers for a second. He has won the election as a leader of the Labour Party with an initial count of 59%, which is a solid majority. At the Psyche debate, before the votes were cast, he went into the debate with a 66% approval rating. At the end of the debate, he had 81% approval rating. The person who came second to him in that approval rating got 8% approval rating. I don't think of a more stark reminder of what people are looking for. People are not looking for timid messages that pay lip service to our issues but primarily serve Wall Street interests. People are fed up with that. People are angry with that. What working people, young people, retirees are looking for everywhere is a real fight back against the status quo. And I want to mention one more thing about Jeremy Corbyn, just to highlight how stunning a moment we are in. Margaret Thatcher, I'm sure you can I was old enough for to have experience her as well, but I'm sure you're going to read about her. She said her biggest victory in favor of the ruling class, in favor of the billionaire class, was establishing what she called new labor, meaning the complete betrayal by the erstwhile working class party and becoming a harrow, corrupt, cynical, neoliberal party. And Jeremy Corbyn's election presents a threat to that new labor. This is not well, it is in this global political context that Socialist Alternative in Seattle decided to run our city council election campaign in 2013. Socialist Alternative, as many of you may know, is a nationwide organization of social and economic justice activists. And in Seattle, like in many other places, we were seeing an opening for left politics, a hunger for change away from corporate-dominated agenda. We've seen the U.S. Congress approval ratings are unbelievably low. There was one survey that was done that said that you can ask people who were surveyed, survey respondents, do you like U.S. Congress more or cockroaches more? Do you like U.S. Congress more or root canal treatment? All the bad things you can think of. The U.S. Congress approval rate is lower than any other bad thing you can think of. I'm not joking with you.
We're still in power.
However, as Melissa mentioned, such victories as we have achieved in Seattle do not come automatically, and they certainly do not come easy. We, first of all, have to don the mantle of activism in its analysis of our victory in 2013 and accurately said, socialist alternative threw the rule book out the window. And what's the rule book for left activists that we are handed down by our so-called leaders? They tell us, you have to be timid, don't rock the boat. We did exactly the opposite. We were audacious, and every step of the way rocked the boat entirely. They said, you have to court the Democratic Party establishment because you're nobody. This is the Democratic Party seat. When they were right about that, we weren't. It is a Democratic Party dominated city. But we did not court the establishment. We were very clear, unambiguous about our ties exclusively with the working families of Seattle. And our loyalties are undivided. We do not take money from corporations, not because it's some sort of morally pure idea we have, although that's important, but it's because the moment you take money from big business, you become beholden to them. And as a matter of fact, one of the most powerful things that we can see happening, increasingly throughout the campaign is that rank and file Democrats, and what I mean is ordinary people who consider themselves Democrat but are not powerful people within the Democratic Party establishment, many of them joined our campaign because it was stunning to them that they had spent decades investing their emotional energy, activism, and faith in a party that had never delivered on the social justice values that they hold dear. And they were drawn to our campaign strongly because they saw that this is the kind of campaign we need. Our campaign energized young people tremendously, people who had sworn off electoral politics, and I don't blame them for doing that. That's a rational response if you don't have anyone voting for, and if you have politics that only has big business parties. That is no way to conduct politics if you're fighting for the working class. But the response to that is not to stay disengaged, but get our own voices out into the streets and into the city hall. And by November, when the election was over, we had won more than 90,000 people, the votes of more than 90,000 people in Seattle. This was a phenomenal victory. People everywhere around the world said, you're calling yourself a global socialist and you won an election in a major metropolitan area in the belly of the capitalist beast. This can't happen. But it's happened because we are in a moment when people are wanting urgently moving to struggle, and because those conditions exist everywhere. Don't let anybody tell you that there's something unique about Seattle and that's why this happened. Of course, there's lots of unique things about every city, but that has nothing to do with this. What it has to do is with the fact that you need conscious leadership that organizes working people around concrete political demands like $15 an hour, like rent control. In Seattle, in addition to rent control, we are also fighting to make big developers pay the maximum fees to generate funds for affordable housing. But that brings me to one of my last point that how are we going to make big developers pay? How are we going to win rent control? We are not going to win any of these demands in this moment is a resurgence of independent left politics. And I also want to be clear, it is not just about a third party. I come from India, where there is a multitude of parties, but not a single one of them serves the interests of the working class. We don't want a tea party. We don't want a party that is different in name only, but is still controlled by the Koch brothers. We want a party that is controlled by the working class and serves the interests only of the working class. And there are a multitude of examples of why we need to urgently build independent left politics. Many of you have been active in the movement against Shell's attempt to drill in the Arctic. But the question we should be asking ourselves is, why did Shell executives win the permit in the first place? It's because the Obama administration failed us. And that is exactly what is going to happen year after year, decade after decade, as long as politics is dominated by the Republican and the Democratic parties. That is the unfortunate truth. As long as we fail to build a real left alternative, the only people who will benefit are the multi-billionaires, the hedge fund owners, the super wealthy, and the working class will face increasingly difficult conditions, and there will be no real way forward to win on racial justice, environmental justice, and justice for women, immigrant community. There are vast swaths of marginalized communities in our nation need that we really understand the need to build left alternatives. And all the demands that are flowing from the Black Lives Matter movement, the end to police brutality, the end to the systematic racial biases in our public schools, the end to discrimination in the workplaces, the need for single-payer healthcare so that we have our basic needs satisfied. None of this will be possible unless we organize ourselves. And organizing ourselves means fighting around concrete political demands, going door to door, campaigning to win people over, not just in the abstract, but to convince them that their presence is required the corporate establishment. I want you to think of that alternate scenario. And if it does not send a chill down your spine when I have failed in my task, because